speaker. His name is Jason R. Thomas. I met Jason, I think last year in Dallas, Texas. We were connected in a couple of different groups. I got the pleasure of meeting David and his father, two amazing, incredible guys. We spent 3 days with, having dinner and at the event and just having a really good time. Jason does some amazing. He's in a lot of different arenas, industries in business, and he's has things that have to do with events. He has. I'll let him explain all the stuff that he does, but a lot of great stuff, and I know the majority of it all is based on helping others, and that's another value of TAG, and I think that's why we relate. We have these powerful stories, and then we take that wisdom that we gain from them, and we want to help others with that. So let me pin Jason up here, and Jason has the stage. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Raul, so much. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to uh, be part of another event. Uh, Eternally grateful for that wonderful program. And while today I'm actually going to focus more on trying to give some tangible um, impact into leadership development, which is one of the uh, core principles that is both a passion and a part of our portfolio. I do want to, acknowledge the purpose of tag, right? About that transparency. And while I shared stories previously, I will at least touch on the fact that this year's been a difficult year. I tempted fate on New Year's Eve as things were going wonderful. And I said every day was going to be better than the next to my wife. And within 24 hours, I was in the hospital for one of many times over the next 3 months. Um, Loss of an appendix and a contraction of a non-epileptic seizure disorder. And it's been the first time, actually, I just spoke at one of Michael Faber's events about this recently, is that it was the first time that through pain that I could, for the first time, empathize with suicidal ideations. Not that I explicitly had them, but I could empathize with them. That's another large passion for myself as well as our foundation, and that I speak on is mental health, suicide prevention, especially in the uh, service community. As I started my timeline uh, as a 15 years in the naval nuclear power field, so I won't do a presentation without doing a plug on mental health. I'll always just say that you are not alone ever. You're going to see, as much as I don't like putting it everywhere, there'll be a QR code all over my presentation that you can get in contact with me professionally and always personally. You're not alone. So, for those in active duty, goroger.org is a wonderful, safe organization that is not connected to the DoD or the VA. So I'm very happy that I received a message anonymously from Stop Soldier Suicide, who promotes that I've at least touched one. One person contacted them, went through their program, and asked that I would be at least be thanked for introducing them. So I mean, one life saved is enough, is amazing. And I mean, they've did the work. All I can do is spread the word. So I would ask everyone who sees this message, ever sees any of our Red Friday lives, promote this, spread the word, because it's something that we have to fix as a society. So uh, after that, now I will do my best to use technology effectively, share my screen, and really try to go into some stronger details on leadership development. Outside of raising my triplets, that's really my biggest passion, and the thing that I've been most proud of is the development of the sailors that I was fortunate enough to work with when I was in the Navy. And now that I keep a beard, I have to promote this on the corporate side, as I have seen through multiple corporate entities before taking over our portfolio of companies that leadership training is just not part of the culture. And we're going to fix that. So, with the magic of technology, hopefully, nope.
Looks good. We can see it.
Mm, you can see the back page. Let's try that one last time. All right. So, like I said, my name is Jason R. Thomas. I run a portfolio of startup companies. Uh, we do work from Intel to nonprofits to World Bank and government bidding, especially on the LMS architecture side, due to Russell and our founding company, the LMS Doctor. And as we've expanded, the leadership side is particularly through Executive Leadership International. You're going to see the QR code that will give you direct access to connect with me throughout this presentation. You can go to the website, and that's about as much sales as that I'm going to push on you today. So, with that said, here's a list of credentials. And I put these up here not because I want to show off what I've done, more about the question that comes up on the next slide is what here makes me a leader? Is it that I have the experience in the Navy? Is it that I had the experience across GE, manufacturing? The answer is none of these intrinsically make me a leader. Leadership and leaders have nothing to do with position, title. Anyone and everyone can be a leader. You simply require the tools and the will to act. So I challenge everyone to ask themselves, what are they? What are you? Are you a leader? Are you a follower? Are you a manager? We're going to go through and you're going to see that there's some differences here. So what you're going to expect today is we're going to challenge some conventional wisdom, and we're going to go through the core tenets of leadership and how that can impact your business and, quite frankly, impact every aspect of your life. So, right now, there's a lot of transitory nature in the workforce. And you can see from the numbers on the screen here that if you go generation to generation, we have this reduction in how long individuals are averaging with a company. And I show this because too many like to blame the current generation. It's not new. You can go back through articles across the last 100 years of U.S. history, and there's always articles complaining about the current generation. But my grandfather, my original mentor, did 30 years at GE. And I accept the fact that there are less pensions. However, the generations themselves are being blamed for this transitory nature, vice the leaders of our organizations taking ownership and recognizing that the lack of corporate loyalty and the impact to their business is theirs, not the generational workforce that they are continuing to allow to come and go. From a cost perspective, it's one of the most expensive parts of any business. Your people are your most important part. They're oftentimes your most expensive part, especially for larger companies when you're dealing with benefits. And when you look at the transitory nature of the revolving workforce and companies that have just come to accept it, you can imagine the increase in costs from recruiting, hiring, training, offboarding, loss of productivity from not having someone there unexpectedly to the position being open. Overall, this has a terrible impact in morale, which again further reduces productivity and is likely to cause even more employee turnover. Right? The cost to companies on having to hire a new employee, according to Gallup, is easily 1.5 to 2 times the salary of the employee that you're paying. Yet, instead of this being one of the key focuses of companies today, a majority of companies are accepting this simply as the cost of doing business and the growing loss on their P&L sheet. And that complacency, that simply giving in to the idea that there's nothing that you can do about it is costing us billions as a country. So now that we got a couple statistics out of the way, and as a nuke, I love statistics. You're going to see some more. What is it that makes you a leader? If it wasn't all the credentials, none of those credentials matter. I love the point of reaching that nothing of value ever comes free or without cost or without work. Right? If you walk in and someone just gives you a certificate, that certificate has no meaning. Michael Faber noted on this, earlier at one of his summits, and it's absolutely right. Some of the things of greatest value to us come through work, come through failure, and comes from getting back up again. So keep that in mind, that to be an effective leader, to make change inside your organization and in yourself, it is going to take work. But I'm here to help give you the tools to do that. And as a company, we do ensure that you're not having to do this alone. So, because I want to show off my terrible handwriting, can you define a leader? Well, of course you can. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And as a nuke, I gave a simple formula that will give you that answer. So, can you define leadership? Yes. And more lovely math. In our programs, you'll see that these become acronyms and steps within our program. It's not just my bad handwriting. But I look at leadership as a verb because it's an act. And the study of leadership and the definition of leadership goes back, I would argue, to the beginning of human history. I would argue that there are cave paintings on the walls right now that are describing leadership in one form or another, good, bad, and different. All right, so I'm very specific on my definition for leadership. All right, ethical, endless empowerment of others to acknowledge the increased potential already possessed within themselves. You'll notice a couple things here. It doesn't talk about the leader at all, number one. Number two, you're not creating anything that's not already in existence. You're empowering through your own acts of leadership. that ethical, endless empowerment for your employees or whoever you're leading to recognize that they have more potential and abilities than they've recognized in themselves before. That's it. That's an act of leadership. And that's why active leaderships require no title, position, anywhere within a company. Anyone can do this if you're willing to put in the work. Now, management. I do say management's a little bit different, right? It's the allocation of resources to accomplish a goal. I would say that's very simplistic and would be poor management, all right? Management, I don't call it effective management. I say what management should be, right? Is the deliberate optimization and allocation of the finite resources. I use those words specifically because as a new and as working in the corporate sector and being responsible for a P&L of over $37 million at my particular site, you recognize quickly that resources are finite. Complex systems tell you that in a finite system, if you equally apply your resources, then the system as a whole will not operate at peak efficiency, which is one of the wisdom points that I like to beat up a little bit is that there's the standard expression that, firing on all cylinders. And you do want your car firing on all cylinders. Okay. Let's not confuse that. However, as an organization, you have to recognize that with the resources that you have, applying them effectively in critical to optimization. Because if you try to apply them equally across, you will not be as successful as you should be if you're successful at all. So there was no poor acts of leadership. Oh, we like the same slides again. So yes, in short, if you want to be a good manager, you first have to become a good leader, right? Because good managers use leadership to optimize those resources. So what are our principles? I like pictures. Pictures stick in your mind well. And as a father of triplets, I believe I have the ongoing ability to be as corny as necessary. So I welcome you to the court of leadership, to which you will be judged. Because being a leader comes, as a spoiler alert, comes from the people you lead. So you are judged, all right, to become an effective leader. First and foremost, it all starts with integrity. Integrity and gratitude, I would argue, are two of some of the only things that cannot be given to you and cannot be taken away from you. Thankfully, integrity doesn't mean you have to be correct. All right? I'm wrong all the time. Integrity means that I know in my heart that what I'm doing, I believe to be correct. And actually, this is what I spoke on in Dallas in depth, was really around how this core fundamental of leadership, I was fortunate enough to be introduced at a very young age from my grandfather. And that's a story for a different day. The thing about integrity is, while it's the cornerstone, it is the foundation. Regrettably, it is exceptionally fragile. it's very hard to build, and it's very easy to lose. And it can happen, it doesn't have to be drastic. It doesn't have to be, oh, he's just completely lying on something that you can break your integrity. As leaders, track your say do ratio. As one of the things as I've moved up further and further, becoming a bigger cog in smaller machines, is that there are only so many hours of the day. And while everything that I want to accomplish or accomplish for others, I can do and maybe should be do, if I can't actually accomplish it, if I don't have that confidence, I need to make sure that is known. Because if I say something that I'm going to do and I fail to do it, that begins quickly eroding the integrity that you may have developed with those around you. You have some room for those that you've maybe worked with a long time and they've seen your integrity. But especially for new employees, this could be an early indication. And if you can't establish trust, you can never be an effective leader because you're never going to be able to effectively empower those you lead. So, ownership. You own everything as a leader, period. It doesn't matter what level you are within the company. Jocko Willink, a outstanding Navy SEAL, had one of the co-founders of Echelon Front. He has an entire book on extreme ownership that I firmly believe in. And at the end of the day, it's just something that you have to accept. When I was at the manufacturing plant that I was in, there was an issue overnight I came into where they had wrapped one of these rolls. They extruded plastic at this company. And I come in and they have the debrief. And I come in and I ask, whose fault is this? And the operator stands up, is like, oh, I went on a smoke break. I didn't effectively tell anybody, and it's my fault. I'm like, no, whose fault is this? And then you had a senior operator's like, well, I knew he left and I could have gone over and looked and I didn't, and that's my fault. And the supervisor jumps in and it's like, well, it was my shift. I guess it's my fault. And that's why I told him, it's my fault. It doesn't matter that I wasn't here. It doesn't matter that I couldn't do your job. I own all the failures. And the successes are owned by my team. Too much inside the civilian workforce, I have seen people afraid to train others to pass on their knowledge because they're fearful that if they do that, that somehow their value is lost. And in truth, your building of your junior employees who will hopefully one day replace you, right? This is what we do in the military every day, right? We are actively training our replacements to be better than us. By doing so, you are recognized and you are able to move up within the company. If you hold that knowledge, you constrain yourself. You cap your level of growth, you cap your value within an organization. And if you fail to grow, you will likely be easily overtaken by others who actually have the drive, right, to empower others. Knowledge. So, first things first, if you're going to own everything, you might as well know what you're doing. And I will say that there's for any nukes watching, they're going to say, without question, everything that I put here is in one way or another part of the watchstanding principles that we live by in the nuclear community. And if my slide shows right, nope, guess not. Um, if you know what's going on, you darn well better do it. And that's why compliance is that second pillar of leadership. You may not understand it yet, and we're going to get into the connection between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. All right. But once you know what you're supposed to do, you better be doing it. Okay. That's the first step. Here we go. Conventional wisdom says that knowledge is power. All right. I take this story as this hit me early on from one of my professional mentors, Dr. Obama Bowen. And knowledge isn't even the potential for power, right? Power being, in this case, the ability to act, the ability to make an impact, to accomplish a goal. I want everyone just simply to imagine a challenge, a difficulty, something that you wish to overcome, right? This is the gate of the castle that you need to break through. There's a hill between you, and there's you. Knowledge, which still takes work, right? It's not nothing. It's the first step. You have to be able to understand. It's the blueprint to the battering ram. But the blueprint in itself holds no power. You can't act. You can't break that barrier down with the blueprint alone. You have to do the work. You have to put the battering ram together. You've got to push it up the hill. That's understanding. And I say at this point, that's the potential for power. That's the potential to make a difference, to make an impact. It is, in my opinion, one of the greatest professional sins is to do the work and have the understanding and not have the will to act. And that action, that's wisdom, is when to act, how to act, what path to take, such that when that battering ram comes down the hill, it's picked up so much momentum that whatever your struggle or issue that is that gate stands no chance. The wisdom, the application of understood knowledge, that is power. But it does all start with knowledge. So I'll give conventional wisdom that. So we talked about understanding. We talked about wisdom. And finally, when you've reached what I call the altar of leadership, I use, in my mind, I envision the Lincoln Memorial. Standing there, it comes down to truth to power. Now that you have the wisdom, right, you have the ability to question what you're doing. Something that I did yesterday may not be the best thing for me today. Something we haven't changed in 30 years because it works doesn't mean it has to be changed. But I would challenge considerably that after 30 years, there's likely some opportunity for growth. And having this wisdom and failing to bring this truth to power to your seniors and ensure accountability. That's the final step. And the good news is if you actually have a good leader above you, this will be encouraged. It will be empowered. This is what will be asked for. In the nuclear Navy, the most junior watchstander, the log recorder phone talker on Nimitz class. They aren't simply expected to know whether or not an order or a procedure is being done properly and to recommend being stopped. They are expected 100%. It is their job, regardless of who gave that order, right? Captain down, to bring that truth to power. It's not easy. But we've already established if it was easy, it would have no value. And we'd have no growth. So, an actual leader, thankfully, doesn't require you to be as proficient as some of the greatest leaders of history. But it requires that you, through your acts of leadership, that endless empowerment of others, that you actually manifest inspiration in those you've empowered to apply their true potential that has been realized and begin at implementing their own acts of leadership. It's one of the few things that, when done properly, is the ripple in the pond that makes a growing impact and a growing value the farther it goes. It's exponential growth. We can't help everyone individually, but collectively, we can. So, like I said, the silly QR code that I added everywhere, we've had plenty of time to grab that. If you're interested, you'll be able to connect with me directly. You can see some of our standard programs that we offer. I will say explicitly that if you have a need, a question, and something that I can bring you value to, we'll find a way to make it work. Like I said, we work with the largest companies to the smallest. Our goal is to bring as much value to others as we can. That is why every one of our companies, every one of our initiatives is centered around the basic point that everyone involved must be impacted positively as a guarantee. So with that, I simply implore you to take a look inside, do your own internal inventory on where you are in leadership, find a mentor. Of course, we're more than happy to provide our services. I love coaching and developing other leaders because intrinsically that means they want to make a difference to themselves and others. So I am ecstatic. And as I mentioned at the beginning, remember that you're never alone and look out for each other.
Amen. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jason. I see
Thank you, sir.
there's a lot of important things that you've talked about, and in the when you started out with some of the personal stuff and just knowing, veterans in general who are challenged and battling in the not-for-profit that you guys have. I thank you for that. I'm getting a little bit of an echo. I want to thank you for that. Because it's important work. It really is important work, and I know you're passionate about it, and you really are in your heart are looking to serve and to help people, and it shows leading into your leadership trainings and things that you're doing also. I think when we were in Dallas, I may have mentioned that I used to be in the corporate world many years ago. I left the corporate world I think in 2005, so almost 20 years now. But climbing the ladder, right? climbing the ladder, the totem pole, and the whole thing. There's so much truth to it, and I meet a lot of really passionate people, just like you, people who are passionate about leadership. And it doesn't seem like things have changed much in these last 20 years. And what I remember is that people are climbing that totem pole, and sadly, they're trying to bring other people down to get to the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll screw up this quote, but Gary Vee said it years ago. He said, "There's two ways to build the best business," and I could use the same phrase, but there's two ways to become the best leader. And they say one is to bring everybody else down, knock all the other buildings down. The other is to just take your time, collaborate, and help and serve, and you'll become the best leader. Sadly, in bigger corporations that I've worked for, it seems like everybody's just trying to pull each other down and get above them. So
Yeah.
I know that's a big challenge. So that leadership, and it's in my opinion, it's in the upper management, that the higher level CEO level, the C level, who need to watch that and make change in that arena, because mid management, right? I was mid management for a large company, Fortune 500 company, um, and I saw them hiring the. I worked in manufacturing, so I worked a
Mm-hmm.
company called Milgard Manufacturing, and I was the production manager for tempered glass. And what I saw happening was they would hire into supervision or management the best person, the best machine operator on the floor. And I remember even back then I was young, I was in my early 30s, and I would say that person is outstanding at operating that machine, but they have no idea how to lead people, and you're taking them from machine operator where they are the expert. And specifically, I can think of one person. I mean, this guy was the best. He would go around to all of our 26 locations and train people on how to operate that machine, or if that machine broke down, he would go there and fix it because he was the best at it. But he was very difficult with people. He had no personality to deal with people, and they brought him up into management position, supervisor position, the whole company for a while was just dropping off. The production was dropping off because he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a leader. So I still hear that type of story happening today.
Oh,
So
100%.
yeah,
Engineers particularly, some of us, well, all of us in one way or another, are somewhat of an odd duck. And uh, being a great engineer, just like you said in your story, does not make you a great people person. However, if the companies provide the leadership training as part of that growth process, then they have the opportunity to be successful. All right. Leaders don't have to have gone through every step within an organization. All right. However, nothing replaces experience in effective leadership. All right. That
yeah,
is why, more or less, the greatest leaders that we deal with often are our warrant officers, all right, who are there, who are the technical experts, who have become the leaders of others and train the senior leaders. So I think, bro, you are 100%. It is the C level responsibility to acknowledge the need to train their individuals in leadership, and to acknowledge the fact that in failing to do so, they're creating a culture that is feeding this transitory nature of employment, which is just costing companies millions of dollars. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
right on, sir.
I don't understand or back then, and even now with a lot of the great people that I meet like you, I don't understand where companies uh, continue to allow such a thing, right? We have another speaker. I don't know if he may have been at. I don't know if he was at the Dallas year. It was at maybe one of our other Dallas events, and he's a management level for FedEx, and same
Mm.
thing. He's really passionate because he sees these challenges happening, and it's any business is a people business, right? I mean, from whatever level working, you're a person, and there's certain levels that we have to be able to lead and be respectful and help and serve, right? That's in my view. I learned that's what the manager, the supervisor, isn't there to tell people what to do. He's there to help them, or she's there to help them
Right.
get their job done and be in the right mindset, in the right state, right? People should want to come to work. They shouldn't get up on Monday morning and go,
Yes.
oh, geez, I got to go to work. They should be like, hey, I love this place. It's a great place where we work and we have a great time. And you know this, but from
Hmm.
experience, happy people is more productive in general, right? They're more
Hmm.
productive, life, business, and everything else.
People don't want to come to work and do a bad job.
Yeah, there you go.
99% of people,
Mhm.
that I think that's 100% true. All right, you have your 20/80 rules of that are out there that 80% are going to follow the 20%, and you can play around with those numbers inside your own company. And that's why the focus needs to be on the positive in listening.
Mhm.
That act, all
Yeah.
right? It it is an act. It's not a passive condition. Listen to your people, what they need, what they're looking for, bring up their knowledge, all right,
Mhm.
and empower them to do better.
Yeah.
And that type of just investment into them by their leaders intrinsically, all right, creates more corporate loyalty, all right,
Mhm.
because people care and
Yeah.
people want to be cared for. I mean, it is the simplest, we can complicate it out into the steps of leadership and everything else. But at the end of the day, it truly is simple. People want to be treated well. They want to be cared for, and
Yeah.
they want to do a good job.
Yeah.
So help give them the tools to do that, and your company is going to succeed much
Mhm.
more than it is right now.
I agree 100%. I'll say a quick quote, and you can give me your thoughts on that as we wrap up. I heard many years ago because I do some corporate training and speaking myself once in a while. Growing up in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and what I've learned, I forgot where I got the statistics from, but it's like 90% of business problems are people's personal problems in disguise. Right.
I love that quote.
So like you
Uh,
said, people want to be cared for. They want to be, and it's outside of just your job. They want to feel like, hey, I can come to work and be supported in whatever area of my life.
Yeah, and I'll end on this because this is a very easy litmus test if you're being an effective leader and whether you are growing in whatever position you are. If every room you walk into, you are the smartest or everyone is simply saying yes, you're walking into the wrong rooms.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely. I got
you
it.
got to
All
grow.
right.